Welcome to The Crest Effect, the show for B2B brands who want to grow.
In each episode, we are going to be deep diving into all things branding and marketing that actually builds and drives trust.
Sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm Lauren.
I'm Naomi.
And this is The Crest Effect.
So, Lauren, tell us, what are we talking about on today's episode?
Today, we want to know, is your brand playing it too safe?
Controversial.
Is it?
I think so.
Well, I mean, I think it's a question that every business owner should be asking themselves.
Yeah.
Am I boring?
Well, is it even boring or is it memorable? Are you being memorable? Because, let's face it, like, it is competitive out there, right?
True.
And there's a lot of noise. So, yeah, are you playing it too safe to really stand out in amongst all of that noise? Yeah. What are you doing to be remembered? Everyone's on their phones these days scrolling. What's going to make that person stop?
I mean, our niche area is B2B, yeah? So for those who don't know what B2B means, it means business to business, specifically in the service space area. So in that area, what we tend to find is that people use tried and trusted language. Yeah. Things like customer focused, solutions focused. Though that kind of language where people go, yep, that's what I think my customer wants to hear.
Yeah.
But is it?
Yeah, you're right. I think that at the moment, I don't know. I mean, business to business is quite unique. I think there is a bit of a different priority set within that particular space. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, they are using very vague kind of language typically, but like, what is your suggestion into, how do they? Okay, sure, they are maybe customer focused. So what can businesses be doing to be a little bit bolder and stand out?
I mean, my thoughts on the word bold. I have a vision when I hear that word, which is like that it's going to be like really insane colors or really insane imagery or something that, like, me as a somewhat conservative strategy-led person gets a little bit like uncomfortable with, right? But actually that's not true, because when I do see someone doing something different to the mainstream, I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Yeah, I want that. And I think that that's probably where business to business need to really consider that, is like, are you just being another number? Are you another navy or blue or those kind of colors that usually sit in that B2B trustworthy space? Yeah. Or are you being something that when you walk out of the room and you've left your paperwork, people go, this is amazing. How do we work with them?
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about AI a little bit here too. I know we weren't really going to weave this in to today's episode, but I think there's actually, so in this new world of AI, I think we've even got that other level now of people are not only using this sort of vague, polished down language, but we're also seeing a lot of the same thing. Yeah. And I think that's across every spectrum of all the different types of marketing and business.
Social media really brought that on, right? We're kind of seeing the same stuff. And so everyone's being like, oh, well, I liked the way they did that reel, I'm going to do the same thing. And we just see then it becomes a trend and everyone's doing it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, it fascinates me because I think it is hard. And I mean, obviously we do a lot of work with our own clients to really work alongside them to find out, okay, well, what is that unique selling point for them and how is it going to resonate with their target audience? Yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit because, I mean, obviously we all know I'm big on storytelling, but that emotion, right? So I like to be like tug on the heartstrings and, give me all the love and the warm and fuzzy feels. I know you're feeling uncomfortable. You're feeling uncomfortable just right now. Like, you want a hug? But I think this is where we start to go, okay, well, are you playing too safe? Let's shake things up a little bit. And I know I used the word bold before on purpose because I know, again, that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But like, how do brands be bold in the way that they communicate and then resonate and connect with their ideal customer?
I think it starts with telling their story, right? And really bringing that to the forefront, because regardless of whether you're a B2B or a business to customer brand, people want to connect and feel involved. Yeah. They want to feel like they're connecting to something. And that connection, as I said before, is like I want to work with them. I want to be part of what they're doing. That's great. I want them to do that for me. So I think it starts with that sharing the story. But that's probably a question for you, because how do we do that for our current customers? How do we showcase for our current customers that story in a way that really is not the same?
Yeah, look, I think, that's interesting. I think if we strip it right back down to the very beginning and the very basic sort of foundation of when we start to work with a client, it's not even understanding their business necessarily. Obviously, that's an aspect. But first and foremost, it's actually understanding who their target market is and who their ideal customer is. And really then unpacking, I guess, the psychology of who that person is.
Of their target market.
Of their target market, yeah. So then really unpacking that in a way that we can understand, well, what are their needs? What are their pain points? What are their desires? And then speaking and communicating in a way that they can really connect and resonate. Because again, like it comes back to emotion a lot of the time. And I think...
But everyone will tell you that there's no emotion in B2B. I actually disagree. Yeah. There is, because it can be the difference between I don't have a job or I've got a promotion. And so I think the emotions are different, but there are still emotions.
I completely agree. And I think too, like, I mean, every business, right? Like there is going to be a competitor doing exactly the same thing. Right. We aren't really that different. I mean, sure, we do our things are like there are 1,000,001 different marketing agencies out there, but it's like, okay, well, what story are we telling and in what way are we telling it to then make that person there choose us over the competitor, right?
Yeah.
So I think, even in B2B, for sure, there's still emotion involved.
So the recent client that we've done where we actually did a rebrand for them, we started with a brand identity or a brand strategy, and then we went through and did their identity, what it looks like in its lifetime.
Yes.
Tell the story about them and some of the things that we learnt, which were actually amazing. Some of the ROI this customer got was not even on their radar.
On their radar. No, and it's literally within months of just launching their rebrand. So I think with this particular client, it was actually, I mean, it's such a cliche word, but a journey, right? It was a journey, but it really was, in the sense, I think one of the biggest considerations for this client was
their stakeholder engagement.
They
had a large stakeholder base that they wanted to make sure we're all engaged along the journey.
Yeah.
And if you've ever done any kind of communication or change management, engaging people is really sometimes the hardest possible action that you take.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think that's why we have worked with this particular, the point of contact in this business before in a previous project in a previous business, and I think that's what actually got us over the line to work with them, because they knew that we were very capable of going on that journey with them.
Yeah, and I think collaboration and communication are key values.
Are really key values.
So
So anyway, I think so. It really started off really acknowledging that they really needed to feel included in that process. So there was definitely a lot of workshop activities, but out of that, for me, actually, personally, this has been, I would say, one of my favorite projects to work on, because of the way we worked with the client in such a holistic way. So for us, it was really not only going and unpacking all of their history, which was really important part for them, but then really understanding where they wanted to be.
Which I think was quite a jump from where they currently are.
Yeah.
They were probably the most forward-thinking brand that we'd worked with from a rebrand perspective. And most people are like, oh, I'm here and I want to be there. But these guys were like, I'm here and I want to be like way over there.
Yeah. And there was some hesitation along the way for some people that were involved. But I think though, unpacking all of that and listening to their stories. This stories was a really big part of this brand, and really hearing from many individuals. That was a really big key part of that process. So we obviously did a lot of workshop work initially, which then developed that strategy, right? So that strategy was, that forward thinking was definitely a really, I guess, center point of what that brand identity was going to look like, but then also the way that it connected and resonated with the community, right?
Yeah.
So, and the stakeholders involved too. So
I think as well with that project, they didn't just want to move themselves from where they were to where they wanted to be, but that also involved a whole lot of different markets that they'd never really tapped into before.
Yeah.
And some maybe that they hadn't even considered in that early stage, but throughout the strategy development, that's kind of where we looked at, well, actually, they were actually a business to customer brand, which is not actually our niche. But as Naomi said, we had worked with the particular point of contact previously. And so I think she felt that we could add some value into the space that was outside of what maybe some of our competitors were offering. And so part of that process actually allowed them to realize that there was some B2B opportunities as well that they hadn't considered before. And so we did the rebrand, and it was very different. For look and feel wise, it was very different. And so we released that, and then a couple of months later we went back and we were like, how did it go? Like, what are people saying? What are you feeling? You know, now that you've lived with it for a little while, it's like buying a new dress and then being like, oh, I love it in the store, and you get to home and realizing you don't love it.
Yeah.
But they had some really positive things to say. And the one thing that actually stood out to us, I think, was some ROI that they didn't expect, which was other businesses connecting with them on a business-to-business level.
Yeah, on a commercial level.
To not just partner with them, but to actually use their facilities, which wasn't something that they'd ever had before. Actually, quite the opposite. They had begged and asked these other brands to come and work with them, and they were like, oh, no, it's fine.
It's fine. No, thank you.
So, you can't really ask for anything better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
What do you think, though, was the catalyst for that? Like, that particular brand, when we brought that in, it was very different, yeah? It looked completely different. But what it did showcase and tell the story of in purely the visual without even having to use language, which obviously we did a lot of work around their tone of voice and what that language would look like as well to align with the physical logo. But I think that what it did do is it brought forward all of those values that these other brands wanted to work with.
Yeah.
And that the previous branding didn't showcase.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so now it was not just a visual in your face, you can see these values, but then that terminology that they started implementing throughout showcased those values, and people were like, yes, that's who I want to work with.
Yeah.
And that really was a turning point for them.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're completely right. I think they had gone from, I think the community was starting to see them as actually, these guys are serious.
Yeah.
They're serious. And it definitely, particularly from that commercial aspect, like you were saying, it leveled up to a point where they could understand each other, I think.
So one of our promises to you on this podcast was that you would walk away with some actionable tips or actions that you need to take with you.
Yep.
So Naomi, how does someone decide whether their brand is playing it too safe? What do they need to do?
Okay, well, look, in like 5 minutes? Okay, all right. So maybe a couple of the things that I would say to anyone considering this is, first and foremost, who are you wanting to engage with? So really put them as that hero of the story. What are they wanting to hear? How are they actually going to hear it? What are their pain points? What are their desires, etc.? And then go and, whether it's your website, whether it's your social media, like maybe scan over maybe the last...
Yes, if you don't have a website, why don't you?
Yeah. DM us. Why did I do that? I don't know.
Because you're off.
Okay. Shush. Go and scan website, or scan even just like the last 5,
your collateral or whatever it is that your
social media posts
to the world.
That's right. And actually read it back and
out loud.
Out loud, and actually dissect whether or not you're using not only language but even like emotional hooks to be able to communicate with your ideal client in a way that I guess showcases not just like, I guess the solution, right? Yeah. To what their pain points are.
Yeah, but I think also if you're reading it out loud and you could be anyone, it's not specific to you. You're not reading it and going, oh, that's particularly my brand, then you need to change it because you're not memorable. You know, we all know that like we go to McDonald's and they're going to say to us, would you like fries with that? We all know. So that's something that makes them memorable, even though it's boring and mundane and we're all like, oh, of course we want fries with that.
And then we get disappointed when they don't ask us if we want fries with that.
But it's the difference that sets them apart, right? Like we need to know there needs to be something different about who you are and that language needs to resonate and your look needs to resonate. It needs to be different so that you're not just the same as everyone else. So our number one tip for today is if you read your website out loud or your collateral or your social media and you sound like everyone else in your industry, then you need to change it, especially if you want to grow your business because people need to know that you're different.
And I think that's the biggest thing as well is share what does make you different. So being authentic to who you are, your that soul, and communicating it in a way, you're right, not like everybody else, but in a way that your ideal client is going to be able to connect and go, yeah, I choose you over Bob over there. So Loz, tell us what's happening in the next episode.
Yeah, next episode we're going to talk about the shift from just outsourcing marketing tasks to really creating a strategic partnership.
Yeah, awesome.
See you then.